All right, so this is 1B, identifying domain range, increasing and decreasing intervals. First, I'm going to do a quick definition and some notation we're going to be using. Domain is all of the x values of the given function. Of the function. The range is just the opposite. It's all the y values. So you can think of domain as left and right. How far left and how far right will the graph go? Range is all of the y values of the function. So you can think of that as how low does the graph go? Like looking if you have the graph, how low does it go to how high does it go on the graph from bottom to top. Increasing intervals, this is where you're following the graph from left to right. And from left to right, which part of the graphs are going up. And here I'm just going to show you the notation we use. There's different types of notation. You're going to have a number, a smaller number, small number. You can use less than or equal to x value. It's always the x value for increasing and decreasing. And then you have a less than or equal to a bigger number. Bigger number than what you used at the smaller number. And this is one of our notations we're going to use. This is inequality, or we're going to use interval notation where it's going to be using parentheses. So you could use that, or you could use parentheses, a number, it's going to be the smaller number, and then comma, and then a bigger number. Oh, that was terrible. I'm going to do a quick erase on that. So that's going to be a bigger number. And so you have small number, big number, and decreasing, you're going to look at the graph. You're going to first label the graph left to right, which part is decreasing, and then we'll label the x's from there. So I'm going to get to example 1 here. Domain is how far left to how far right will the graph go forever and ever. So we have to look at each graph individually. How far left will this graph go? So if we look at the left part of the graph, the left arrow, this is pointing to the left. It'll keep going left forever. It's going up, but I'm not caring about up and down. And right now it's domain, which is x values, which are left and right. How far left will that go? It'll go to negative infinity. How far right will this? Now I'm going to look at the right arrow of the graph. How far right will that go? Well, that'll keep going to the right, and to the right is positive infinity. If you look at, eventually it'll cross over into the x values. It'll eventually cross over and continue to the right forever to positive infinity. So one way you can write this is parenthesis, negative infinity to positive infinity. Close out the parenthesis. Or you can write it with inequality notation. Negative infinity is less than x, which is less than positive infinity. Either way, the bottom one, interval notation, is more what I'm going to use. Range. Looking at the range now. We have what is the lowest value of the graph on the graph to the highest. So you're looking at this whole graph. What's the lowest point? Lowest point of the graph. And hopefully you're saying right down here. Well, it's range. Range is the y values. So what is the y value of that point? It's down here at -1. So we're going to start at -1. And then we're going to go, how high does this graph go? Well, both the right part and the left part go up and up and up and up and up forever. It doesn't matter which one. They both go up. They're both going to go to positive infinity. So it really doesn't matter which side you are looking at. They're going to go to positive infinity. I should talk more about these brackets or parentheses. A parenthesis means it's not included. So this means not included. A bracket means included, that it because there is an actual closed point at -1. So this is included, and this means, so a bracket means included, like equal to, and the parenthesis means not equal to, or not included. So we can talk more about that with practice. Increasing and decreasing intervals. This is where we're following the graph. You're gonna graph from left to right. So from left to right. So the most left part of the graph is here. And as we follow the graph, you just follow the contour of the graph. That goes down. So that's decreasing. And then it turns and it goes up, and that second part is increasing. So now we're just gonna work on, and this is really the domain for each decreasing and increasing interval. This increasing interval, where does the graph start increasing? Starts right here at, I believe that's -4. The x value is -4. I don't care about the y value, it's only x values. Starts increasing at -4, you can either have a bracket or a parenthesis, doesn't matter to me. And where is it gonna end? How far right will it go? Because we're talking domain is really what you're doing of the interval. How far right will that go? It's gonna go to the right forever, to infinity. Decreasing, looking at the decreasing interval. Let me do this in a different color. So it's decreasing from left to right. Where does it start decreasing? How far left will this graph go? Well, it's gonna keep on going to -infinity. So it's gonna start at -infinity. And how far right will that graph go? Well, it decreases until -4. That's as far as it goes. It stops decreasing there. And so there we go. There's the increasing and decreasing interval. Moving on to number 2, we have domain. How far left to how far right will the graph go? So we'll follow the left arrow of the graph, the left side of the graph. How far left will that go? Well, it's going to keep on going left forever. Left forever, if you're looking at just as x values, left forever is -infinity. Those are x values. And how far right will the graph go? So this continues to the right. The right side goes, it's going to keep going right forever. So it's also going to go to right to infinity. The range. Range is how low, the lowest point of the graph, to the highest point of the graph. So if we're looking at the range, what's the lowest part of the graph? There's like, this is a local minimum, but it's not the lowest part of the graph. There's a lower part way down here. And where's it going to go to? It's going to go to -infinity. So it's going to go -infinity. And then how high will it go? There's a local maximum here. That's a local max and a local min, but it's not the actual max or min of the graph. The max of the graph keeps on going up, up, up. It's going to go up to infinity also. Now we're going to look at increasing, decreasing. So I'm going to erase everything, and I'm going to look at strictly from increasing, decreasing. Start on the left side of the graph, follow it. So I'm following the contour of the graph. That's increasing, the first part. Now it's going to turn and go back down, so that's decreasing. And then it's going to turn again and go up to infinity. So it's going to go. That's going to be back to increasing. So we have 2 increasing intervals and 1 decreasing interval. So let's take a look at our domains of those increasing and decreasing intervals. So looking at the first part, let me do this in a different color. So looking at this first part, the increasing interval there, how far left does this go? Left, it's going to keep going left a little bit, but it's going to keep going from -infinity. And where does it stop? The x value is at 0. So it's going to stop at 0. And since we already have another increasing interval, I'm going to put a union here. That just means that it's also another part of the increasing interval. It's going to start increasing at this point here. Well, what point is that? Well, that's 2. These intervals go by 2, so that's 2. And where does this stop increasing? How far right will it go? This will go right, because we're talking domain of the increasing interval, right to positive infinity. The decreasing interval, there's one little decreasing interval there. So let's look at the decreasing interval going down here. Which from what point to one point is it decreasing? Starts, the x value is at 0, and it stops decreasing at 2. All right, that should be good for today.